Hello, and welcome to the Create a Life You Love podcast. I'm your host, Chantel Cox. My purpose is to empower and lift up others who know in their heart they're meant for more. More joy, more impact, and more passion. If you're ready to make a radical transformation and create a life that you love, then you have come to the right place. Let's do this. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Create a Life You Love video podcast, where we get to connect with people from all over the world to share tips and strategies designed to help you on your journey. So I'm your host, Chantel Cox. I'm an author, speaker, and transformation neurocoach who helps women experiencing life transitions create a new vision for themselves, reconnect with their passion and purpose, and turn their transition into their triumphant transformation. Quick reminder, this is being streamed live. So those of you with us, feel free to put in the comments any questions in the chat, and then we'll get to them as it makes sense in the flow of our conversation. And if you happen to be catching the replay, just use hashtag replay and we will be sure to respond to you later. And if you are listening on the podcast, feel free to message us. So I'm so excited today to be here with Paige Penick. Paige is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and certified personal trainer, and she's going to be sharing with us how you can reframe your thinking on food in order to simplify and increase your success with your health. So hello, Paige. How are you today?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited. And before we went live, I already asked you this question and I'm excited about the answer, but share with us where you're joining us from.
Yeah, I'm in Kansas. In Kansas.
Yay, Kansas.
Yeah, well, I realized for anyone who's like Kansas, like basically in the middle of the continental US.
Well, I just think it's fun that, we did not know each other. We met through most likely a podcasting Facebook group. And like, we've had some exchanges back and forth. And then today I'm like, oh, where are you at? And you're like, Kansas. I'm like, stop it. Where?
It's weird.
So that's fun. Because a lot of times, it's not Kansas a lot of times, unless it's somebody that I know that I've like a friend of mine, like last week, Coach Jen. Okay. So Paige, so excited you are here. So excited everybody who's joining us live. Thank you for being here. If you will put in the chat where you're joining us from, that would be fabulous. And as they're doing that, Paige, give us a background. How did you create a life that you love?
Well, I would say this is always a work in progress, because, and particularly today, I mean, we're talking about nutrition, and that's for me where like the biggest changes in my life have happened, I've made. And so, I mean, like the short of it is like a lot of changing my life to make it better has involved listening less. And this might sound really weird, I don't know, but listening less to the outside world and realizing that internal is a lot more helpful, kind of specifically around nutrition, but other things too. Like the external world has so much to say, and sometimes it's like shut it out. So kind of short answer maybe there, but yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. So do you feel like, did you always have that realization to kind of be naturally intuitive, or is that something that came along later in life?
No, yeah, not at all. And once again, like I'm from the nutrition world, so that's like where my head goes with this stuff. And I mean, that's what we're talking about today. So yeah, like my relationship with food, that's kind of a term a lot of people are using nowadays, becoming more familiar with, it was messed up. And it was really so much of it, and I think for so many women, men too, but like that, I mean, diets, like there's so much cultural stuff about our bodies that is just in our faces always. And so I was listening to all that, and it took me a long time to realize that that was not helping me, that I really had to stop listening to that.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So at some point in your life, you decided stop listening to all the do this, do this, do that, for all the inundation from the outside world, and really get intuitive. And so as you kind of progressed through your journey and found your tuition, then I know you started sharing with other people how they can do the same thing and create a life that they love. And so did part of your journey include like okay, I've had a transformation and now I want to pursue like becoming a nutrition and dietitian?
Well, actually, so I pursued it before because I had questions. I was really confused. I was like so many people, like, how do I fuel my body? What am I supposed to be eating? Like, there's so much confusion. What should I? What shouldn't I? And so I was listening to a lot of people, and eventually one day when I was like, this isn't working, that's when I decided to go to school and then learned a lot there. And then also getting out of there, kind of then, okay, take the science and apply it to life. And that's when I was really like, okay, now I have this really good idea of how to change this thing and help people. Like I've helped myself and then helping other people.
Awesome. I love it. So I know you are actively working with people and helping them not only create a life they love, but really reframe their way of thinking and just change the way they view food and access food. So as someone who's maybe a little further behind on your journey and like, well, how do I do that? Like, what tips do you have for our listeners?
Yeah. So that first part we were talking about of like the outside world, so much of it is fear based. Like the stuff we hear on the radio, on TV, from celebrities, it's fear based. It's not realistic. It's often not based in science or like really what works in life. And I know all day we'll hear like, well, it worked for me. It worked for whatever famous person. Okay, well, I poop on that and I say, like, there's somebody, I mean, without getting into the weeds, just shutting that out and starting to tune into yourself. Because the weird thing is, we don't do it as adults, but our bodies are giving us information about food. Like, our bodies tell us when it's time to go to the bathroom. Our bodies tell us like things about food. So, sorry, that was like a really long-winded answer, but that is a place to start. Would be starting to listen to yourself. But that's just, I mean, that's one way.
Yeah. So, so would that be something like eat when you're hungry, not just eat when you're bored? Like your body will tell you when it's time to eat, and what your body, how it responds to certain foods will tell you like what it's getting fuel from and what it's not.
Yeah, when it comes to like the more practical like action, like, okay, what do I do with that? Because I know what I just threw out there is like, what for some people? So hunger and fullness is the ideal place where our body is telling us, hey, I'm hungry, hey, I'm full. But for a lot of people, they're not feeling that. And that might be for a number of reasons. One of those is that like people aren't eating all day for 6, 8 hours. And so we have to start actually fueling our bodies on a regular basis to then start finding those cues. So another thing they can do is start actually fueling your body and not going all day. Like you need to eat more regularly, consistently. That is a really important piece.
Excellent. So that's great to kind of know that that's something that you found out. And so, kind of side note question that may come up in the chat. And remember, anybody watching live, feel free to throw comments and questions in the chat as we're going. But so, as you know, we're looking at all the things that we're hearing. And so, we do hear kind of more of that grazing throughout the day is good for our bodies, but then we also hear like intermittent fasting is good for our bodies.
Yeah. So long story short, without getting, like I said, like I can get on my little like pedestal, not pedestal, I'm terrible with sayings. It's my soapbox. Um, it- okay, breakfast is called break fast. So we are fasting overnight. Every time you go to sleep, you're fasting technically. And so you already are fasting, A. And B, a lot of people struggle with like emotional eating, cravings, overeating. A great way to keep that going is to keep not eating. And so, like, that's why I go back to eating more often. Um, there's not like, once again, this is where the world loves to tell us this stuff that really is not, like, it's lacking in legitimacy. So in general, for people, I don't support that. And I would say that of what I hear of people that are doing it, they end up feeling terrible. They end up getting on a hamster wheel of like overeating, binging, feeling awful. So I know people do it, but then they come to me and they're like, hey, I've been fasting. I'm like, hey, yeah, it didn't work. And they go, yeah, it didn't. So, I mean, yeah, I can sit here and, like I said, just like go on about it, but it's not something I recommend.
Gotcha. Yeah. Um, and so I know you work with your clients about, we sometimes come up with rules for ourselves. And so what would you share with our listeners about kind of those food rules that we come up with?
Well, I would say they don't help. Uh, because the more, I mean, there's that saying, here I'm with sayings again, I said I'm terrible at them, but like rules are meant to be broken. I'm not necessarily saying that's true, but when it comes to food, that's what ends up being like, that's what ends up happening so often. Like, oh, I can never have chocolate cake for the rest of my life. Guess what? You're like, that's a long time, especially if you like chocolate cake, or or something else. Some food you really like. I'm not going to eat that anymore. That's crazy. The rest of your life to never eat it. So finding a way to eat all foods and fuel your body appropriately is just a I don't know what else to do but say that it is the way to go. And so yeah, those rules, they lead us back to it's this nasty cycle, this hamster wheel. Restriction or avoidance, not eating leads to the overeating, the cravings, leads to feeling terrible about yourself, hating yourself, saying awful things to yourself. Then you go back to the rules because you don't know what else to do. And then it just keeps repeating. So yeah, not a fan. I'm such a naysayer, but
Not a fan of kind of making really strict rules for yourself that are really coming from the outside world, that may or may not align with what your body needs.
yeah.
Yeah. So we do have some participation in the chat. Gloria Cox is on live with us. Hi, Mom. And she says she eats more when she's tired and sugar fuels my energy needs. And Miss Tracy Marie is on here too. And she shared that, like a lot of us, that she's an emotional eater, and they are both also in Kansas. They live up in the Manhattan area.
Oh, that's where I got my dietetics degree. I'm
Oh,
familiar.
cool. Up at K-State.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll
Great.
Could I throw in there something? She's such an
Absolutely.
energy thing, and I would say like something that can change that potentially. I know there's lots of different things, but what we're talking about here is like the longer people go without eating, that can be one of those things that leads to this drop. You're like crashing. That's where we want to eat more consistently throughout the day. Every couple, 3-4 hours ish can really help, because at the end of the day, that I'm done, I feel terrible, I have no energy, or I really want some sugar or whatever, that can be one thing to help with that potentially for her if she hasn't tried it out.
Awesome. Yes. Um, yeah. And I find like I do need, like I found out with my own body, like I need a little snack. Like it doesn't need to be a meal, and it doesn't need to be like sugar. It could be literally, I've recently repurposed my shot glasses because an ounce of almonds is a serving. So I bring up a little shot glass of almonds up to my desk and kind of snack on that, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right when I could probably just crash if I didn't do something like that. So I kind of tapped into my body in that way too. And my mom says, yay, K-State. She's retired, K-State staff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, this is so good. What else do you have? Keep it coming.
What was that? Sorry, I was
I
laughing.
said, keep it coming. So good.
Oh gosh, I mean, when we talk about like, well, you mentioned the almonds, so like I would say that's a great example too of, so almonds have fats in them and proteins, and that's a big thing that people are fearful of, and also like don't always get is different kinds of foods that, not just carbohydrate foods, not just foods with proteins, not just foods with fats. And a lot of these diets and stuff really make these scare, like carbohydrates are more really demonized, or fats, depending on what you're listening to. But that's something that there's so much to actually what these do for your body. And I could go on all day about how important carbohydrates are and proteins and fats. But getting those in, like in a whole meal, getting all of those in is ideal. Every time you eat, snacks, maybe not so much, but like a meal, getting all three of those in, that does something for you. If you're just eating only carbohydrates all day, you're probably not going to feel so great. So you want to get in all of those. So just throw that out there.
So you're definitely sharing, be a well-balanced, nutritious lifestyle, not a diet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's 100% what works for it can work now and it can work 50 years from now, because the diet, like so many people are like chronic dieters, because guess what? The diet hasn't worked. And the next one they hype up and they say how great it is. And they blast it on TV and they get a celebrity they pay. And I love Rob Lowe in Parks and Rec, but I'm super disappointed. Super disappointed he's now pushing Atkins. Don't get me started. So
I'm sorry. Is he literally pushing Atkins?
Yes.
Any other Parks and Recs fans will get that.
He totally is. And it's not, the problem is these diets so often, they don't talk about actually like how to actually fuel yourself and what your body actually needs. It's just don't do these couple things and your life will be better. And then your life isn't better, but you don't know what to do. So you just go on the next diet and they don't work. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you hit on that, they don't work and maybe they work temporarily. But then if it's not sustainable and maintainable, like you mentioned chocolate cake earlier. So if you do make up a food rule and say, I'm never eating that again, and then you go and instead of having a portion size of chocolate cake, you eat a chocolate cake, like you could be really successful with a diet and lose whatever amount of weight, 20, 40, 50 pounds, whatever you're going for. But then inevitably you're going to fall off the wagon. And a lot of times, at least for me in my journey, then I would gain back more than like where I even started at. Like I would have been better just to stay where I was.
And there's so many problems with the whole, like, we are inundated with, you need a smaller body. That's the message. And then the answer is do this diet. And along that, you need a smaller body, do this diet. There's so many things wrong with that. Some of them we've already talked about, but like, oh my gosh, like once again, I'm trying not to go on and on here, but I mean, A, you don't necessarily need a smaller body, and B, the diet doesn't solve your problems and it's going to lead you to something like, it's just, for most people, you end up hating yourself and you end up saying, I did this wrong. I'm bad. This food is bad. I'm terrible. I'm so ugly. And it's like, you are worse off than when you started.
Mm-hmm.
But we're told this is what we have to do. So we keep doing it. And it's really disgusting. And it's disgusting that this is what we're inundated with. And the more I become aware, the more I see constant commercials, radio ads. It's everywhere. And we're told this is what you have to do. And yet it doesn't work. And I don't know where I even why I went there, but I get really ticked off that this stuff doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got some great comments in here. I'll read a couple off for you. Being aware helps fight the sugar urge. So I guess just being aware that it is a sugar urge, and then maybe having an alternate, like, yes, my body's craving sugar, but this shot glass of almonds will do better for me long term. And a comment, shot glass is a great idea to measure. Could snack prep if you have enough shot glasses, LOL. I have a couple. And that never thought of the shot glass tip. And then, question, what are ways to increase vegetables?
There are lots of ways. First of all, you got to find what you like, because like plain broccoli doesn't sound super good, but roasted broccoli, delicious. So it'll probably take some playing around with it, but you got like, there are different ways to cook things, different ways to flavor with spices. So playing around a little bit would be away. And then also just adding it to stuff. Like you got some food here, toss it in and like add some extra, like beef it up. You beef up the meal you currently have by just adding to.
Mm.
And also say convenience. You don't have to eat fresh. Frozen is just as great, if not better sometimes. Frozen really gets pooped on. So does canned. Like that doesn't, no, it's baloney. We're fed so much baloney. No pun intended. So yeah.
I try to stay away from the can just because of the sodium. But yeah, I will keep stocked in my freezer those little microwave bags of like the broccoli, carrots, cauliflower. I mean, what a great way to add side to a baked chicken breast. I mean, it's just an easy meal prep idea. So you're saying just figure out what you like. Like, don't make if you hate, oh, what are those little circular green balls that stink? I hate them so much. I've forgotten their names. But if you hate broccoli, then don't make yourself eat Brussels sprouts. Yes, that's the one. Like, don't force yourself to gag them down and make yourself miserable. Decide what you like. And I love the idea too of like trying new things. Like I didn't know that I liked asparagus, but I tried it. Turns out it's amazing. Same with zucchini.
Yeah, it's about fine. And sometimes people have bad experiences from like how they grew up. Maybe, they were always thrown the same thing, or like the squash was always super soggy. It's like squash is disgusting. Well, you can do other ways. There are lots of ways. And like with the frozen and canned, I didn't mention like I'm a big fan of no added ingredients.
Mm.
So like canned green beans, there's so many more options nowadays than there were even 5 or 10 years ago. So like my preference would be in water. So just throwing that like, because I don't know. I mean, it varies where you grocery shop, but more and more of that is available without a bunch of additives, without all the like some frozen vegetables that have tons of added stuff. Like make it yourself and add in what you like that tastes good to you would be my first choice.
Yeah. So being really conscious and aware of reading the label when you're purchasing.
Well, so I work with eating disorders as well. So I'm always conscious of what I'm saying and how I'm talking about it, because there are also different levels of like where you're at and where somebody else is at. So
True.
if right now you get in 0 vegetables a day, I kind of don't really care like what you're like, you have to do baby steps. So I'm not going to tell you tomorrow to prepare, have your plan for the next 7 days. You're gonna eat vegetables at every meal and they're all fresh and you're gonna like spend hours in the kitchen. So, maybe that is the thing that has some additives. Like in my world, in my brain, that's okay. But like this is general and we're speaking in general. So everyone's different and it's kind of like you got to do next steps for you and where you're at. And especially if somebody has like disordered eating disorder, that's a totally different thing. So yeah, I'm like loosely in general speaking about it.
Yes. Thank you so much for highlighting on that, because definitely want to be conscientious of that and notice where you're at on your journey, and like kind of celebrating your wins. Like maybe typically you get 0 vegetables and today you ate 1 baby carrot. Woohoo! Good job.
That's true. Yeah, we can be really hard on ourselves. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So celebrate those wins. Okay, so we do have some more really good questions in here. Let's get to the questions. Okay, so one question is, so what does work?
Do you know what it's in regard to?
Kind of like weight loss, probably. Because the previous question or the previous comment was 6 years ago, I lost 20 pounds on a low carb diet and exercise, but after COVID, it's all back. So what does work was then the following comment.
Okay. I would say what we're talking about now, because that had rules, what they're referencing, that had certain things, certain like kind of tight restrictions, and life doesn't really typically allow for restrictions. And we're humans, we have feelings and emotions, and those get added in. Like it's not, animals are a little different. Like the squirrels that I see outside, like they're just fueling their bodies. They don't have the added emotions, like family events. Humans, there's some other layers. So the restrictions, the rules, for many reasons, they don't usually work. So yeah, the stuff we're talking about here, taking away those rules, listening internally, eating regularly, these are some really important, I think, maybe starting places for a lot of people.
So, because you talked about kind of the well-balanced diet, making sure you've got all the proteins, the fats, and the carbs, and not a lot of additives, kind of being aware of that. And depending on where you're at in your journey, increasing your vegetables, unless like all you eat is vegetables, then good job. I don't know.
Well, I'd say in general, oh, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
In general, a lot of people just don't eat a lot of plants. And so like that's fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, things that come from the earth have a ton of nutrients that do a lot for us. And those are just great places to start when it comes to just adding in.
Yeah. Okay. Another great question here is, do you have any recommended like sugar sweetener alternatives for a diabetic?
Ooh, okay, that's not my specialty. So I don't want to speak too much and be wrong.
That's okay. Do
Yeah,
you have like a resource you would recommend or a website or something to direct people?
I know dietitians that work with diabetes. I'm trying to think of one. I'm trying to pull it up really quickly because I can think of somebody right now I talked to on Instagram. Give me 5 seconds. I was just talking to her the other day.
No, you're perfect. Thank you
Her
so
name,
much.
yeah, her name
I
on
think,
Instagram. What? Or
yeah,
they're
go
on
ahead. What's her Instagram handle? I'll put it in here.
Food Freedom Diabetes.
Oh,
No periods or
freedom
anything. I know she
diabetes.
works with diabetes.
Awesome. So tell us
Okay.
a little bit about, well, I will link that for whoever's interested. So you can go check out her Instagram, and I'll do that in a minute. While there's another question, the questions are flying today. Thank you all so much for your amazing participation. So when doing 21 Day Fix, I added spinach to my morning shake. So that's one way to increase vegetables that someone found. A specific question would be, what are your thoughts on keto?
And I'm not trying to be just a jerk, but I can tell you, like, I mean, to me, the biggest thing that speaks to me is that people come to me and come work with me and go, yeah, I did keto, it didn't work. And it falls along the, like, all of them: keto, fasting. I mean, the list goes on. Calorie counting. I've done some of them. They don't work. They've got these rules, and keto, like, history, the ketogenic diet was created for people with epilepsy. It was created to help them, not so much like that's where the actual research on it is about, that helping people with seizures have like less terrible seizures, fewer seizures, that kind of thing. And somebody decided to go and take it and try and give it to the general public, which is not where the research is. It's not what it's meant for. It is supposed to be really closely watched by a doctor, like a whole care team. Like, this is a serious, real thing that and I get so ticked at the media and celebrities for making things like people with loud voices going, hey, everybody go do this. Like, do you have epilepsy? Do you have seizures? Like, okay, are you being watched by a physician? And that's scary, because you need carbohydrates. And that's where I'm getting a little, because it's scary that our brain, that is our brain's preferred fuel source. We need carbohydrates. And if you don't have enough carbohydrates, actually, your proteins can get pulled from, like, your muscle mass.
Oh, wow.
So they are protein sparing, meaning if you have enough, you're not, so sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox here, because it's so important that this stuff, like this, people get hurt from this stuff. So I just get really serious about it. Sorry. But because it's not, I think it's not okay to tell people to do stuff that can hurt them. So long story short, sorry. I just don't, it's for most people, it's not a great idea. And I would say to start exploring like why are you exploring these things? Because there's maybe something like that we're talking about that could be more healthful for you, more helpful, that actually works long term.
Absolutely. So, and this is going to show you my ignorance and that I am not a dietitian. And that's why I connect with amazing guests like you, so that you can share your knowledge, because this is not my area of expertise. I too am on this health journey. So when I was in high school, I definitely jumped on the Atkins bandwagon. And so in like 14 days, I could like drop 20 pounds. It was insane. And I would do it, right before, like homecoming. But like pretty much the next morning, once I woke up, because I went out with friends and like ate the big dinner and fueled up on the things I'd been depriving myself for 2 weeks, then I gained it all back plus some. But then also later, as my mom, who's on here, as we started really looking at it and thinking, like we were eating a lot of eggs and cheese and steak, and like, okay, so we cut the carbs, but we super increased like cholesterol type things. And we're like, cool, we'll be skinny, but we're going to die of a heart attack with clogged arteries. So then we did not kind of, we jumped off that bandwagon and did seek out more sustainable lifestyle changes, not the fad diets. But yeah, that was kind of my personal experience, specifically with Atkins. I'm not as well versed in keto. This is where my uneducated in this realm comes into play, is my understanding, and so help debunk this myth if it is inaccurate, is that like keto is not no carb, it's low carb. So they're still eating carbs, they're just limiting the amount.
Well, here's one problem with it. And this, like, if someone is told, yeah, keto, it's low carb, go do it. What's low carb? Because one person's idea of low carb, say somebody who has diabetes, their idea of low carb is different than somebody else's idea of low carb. And yeah, sometimes, I mean, you'll do a search, and maybe you'll find a certain number, but just terms like that, that's one place where it starts kind of going wrong, is like, what is low carb? So yeah, I think a lot of people doing it are eating carbohydrates, but, and I went on, I got my little soapbox there about how much you need them. But there aren't enough. Like we have demonized carbohydrates, I believe. Maybe one of the reasons is because nowadays you go and get a bowl, you order pasta, you get a huge thing of pasta. You order rice, you get a huge thing of rice. Yeah, that's more than one serving. And then that's all you end up eating. You're not eating any vegetables. You're maybe not eating much protein. You're maybe not eating, much fiber or, heart healthy fats. So you're just loading up on carbohydrates. Yeah, you didn't need that many. If that's all you do every day, then we go, oh, carbs are bad. They make you fat. And you kind of feel like I think we went wrong. We went from one extreme to another, instead of finding the happy place in the middle. And carbohydrates aren't bad. It's just you don't need 4 servings at once. That's all. And every now and then it's okay to have more than 1 serving, but it's because if it's day after day. Sorry, I went on again. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's perfect. So again, really coming back to the balance, like you use the term one extreme to another. So you don't want to be no carb, but you don't want to be all carb. So if you find, and listening to your body, my mom did put in here, my sister not recently, it feels like recently, but in her adulthood, did get diagnosed with celiacs. And so she had to go on one of those restrictive diets temporarily, those elimination, and I believe it was under a doctor's care, to figure out what her body was responding to, because I mean, she's just not doing well health wise, and it was because of the food she was putting in. She eats very healthy and clean, but her was not processing. So she tapped into her intuition, sought out the assistance from a trained medical professional, and now has kind of figured that out. And she does have to kind of live on a pretty restricted meal plan because of what it does to her body. And so you're saying though, for like the general, unless like it's for a health person, somebody experiencing some health needs like that, and they maybe seek out some, it's great to come here and get kind of more general information from a specialist, but like to really dive deep and get some one-on-one, to connect with someone like yourself, a family physician, like seek out somebody who can help you narrow down that field for your one-on-one unique circumstance.
I mean, so yes, I'm all about like the stuff we're talking about today. It applies to so many people, but that's where, yeah, if you have celiac disease, then yeah, I mean, we studied all that. Like it's messing up your intestines. Well, like you're not processing, you're not taking in nutrients right. So yeah, if you have legitimate celiac disease, gluten is not, it's a problem for you. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, that you want a specialist to help you with. And there's even like intolerances and there's sensitivities and for all kinds of things. So yeah, that is a different piece. Now, some of that can play in with what we're talking about. Like someone with diabetes, a lot of what we're talking about today actually perfectly applies to them. But yeah, in general, the safe thing is just, yeah, you need to speak. Like, I mean, anything I'm saying today, like, I'm not your dietitian, so don't go like take, this isn't medical advice. This is general information. So yeah, at the end of the day, you may need to seek out your specific medical provider for what you got going on. Yeah.
Absolutely. A comment here: kidney doctors don't like keto diet. I do remember that it puts your body in ketosis, which apparently is not a great healthy thing.
And that's the whole research with epilepsy and that medical, like being highly monitored, very closely monitored by medical providers. Yeah, if you're doing it, and that's where like the whole concept of how many carbohydrates, the ketosis, like that's when just don't do it. Like that's scary. Is
Yeah.
how I feel about that.
Do you have a general recommendation? I know it's a lot of like well balanced and listen to your intuition, what your body needs. But I mean, what would be for a normally function, healthy adult female, because I mostly work with females, what might be a ballpark for carbs, a healthy amount of carbs to focus on or attain for?
So speaking of the being general thing, what I could say is something that the government has that I am pretty accurate, good place to start. It's online, myplate.gov.
Mm.
So like we used to have the like over certain, like I think every 10 years they redo this concept or this idea of, how we should theoretically be eating. It used to be like, I'm trying to think of when it was when we were kids, like pyramid.
Yep.
Okay, and then it was the dude walking upstairs, and now it's a plate. Okay, I don't know if you'd be like, what are you talking about? Okay. So
I
now
got you.
okay, so it's a plate. So the concept is, the rough idea is like 50-ish to 60-ish% of your plate would be carbohydrate.
Mm,
And for a lot of people, I feel like, what? That's because we've been told that carbohydrates are bad.
interesting. So this, I just put the myplate.gov link in the chat, and then up popped the little plate with the little thing. And what it reminded me of too was something we haven't quite touched on yet: macros.
Yeah, is the question, am I a fan of them? Is the
So some people might even be like, mac what? Like macaroons? Those are good. I can have those. Like, so explain macros and then maybe like the nutrition science behind it.
So macronutrients, again, a science thing that we've taken and we have done whatever we want to try and tell people to do it. Macronutrients, there are 3 of them: carbohydrates, fats, proteins. And there are also micronutrients, micro meaning we need fewer of them. We need them in smaller amounts. And those are like vitamins and minerals. So the macronutrients, the things we need more of. And sorry, I was getting a little nerdy there. If I get a little excited about it, sorry, it's too much. But those are the things we need in larger quantities. And so, yeah, we've talked about them a little bit. So yeah, some people are all about counting those. That's why I was like, where are we going with this? So that's another thing, another diet kind of thing that people are like, oh, I count macros. Well, what I'll mention there is that doesn't account for, again, it just leaves out so many things. It makes these rules And it doesn't talk about fiber or hydration or like the importance, the value of plant foods. It's just like, do this thing. And I just, it's just like the rest of these diets of like, I mean, we can go on about how many there are, but they have these rules and they leave out certain things. And it's really not, they never talk about how like you feel. Like, do you feel good? If you feel terrible, that like stop. I don't care if you've lost weight. I don't care if you haven't lost weight. If you feel terrible, that is not your solution. And that is your body telling you, hey, things aren't working out. But we ignore it because we're told this is our solution. And that's usually what diets tend to do to us is we feel terrible and we ignore it and we just keep feeling terrible. Yeah, try not to go on there.
You're good. You mentioned plant-based, and that was another question was kind of those plant-based foods. So if somebody, I mean, there's a lot, and the question didn't go specifically into types. So I'm going to stop talking because I'll just fill in my own filter. But the question was about thoughts on plant-based foods.
So nowadays, like people are going on this other, I'll call it another extreme. But basically, like I'm back here, like let's find our middle, which is plants have tons of value. And when I say plants, I'll say again, like vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts, whole grains. These are just like when we're just eating all proteins, we're missing out on these things. And so many people just, we don't lead with them. We don't even include them. And so I say, you know, there are different ways to go about it. Maybe you're leading with them. You start your meal with some fruits and some vegetables and you add to it. Or you're just finding ways to add, you know, hey, I've got my, whatever, my protein and my, I don't know, you've got pasta and meatballs. And you're like, hey, I don't have any vegetables in here. Now, granted, pasta would be a plant, would be clear, but you can add in more plants. So yeah, my thing just is like just getting in more plants because most people aren't getting a ton.
Yeah. So if it can increase your plant intake, your vegetable intake, and it's not just vegetables, you mentioned nuts and things like that. So natural things, which makes me think of paleo.
So
We're just like
natural.
zinging you one after another. We're like, what about this? What about that?
Yeah, that's, I mean, and I'm not, I can tell you there's not one that someone is going to list. Well, unless they say like, okay, that's not really true. Like the Mediterranean diet, it's not really a diet. It's a way of eating. And that's a pretty awesome way of eting. Short story.
Okay.
It's basically what I mean. It's like a lot of what I talk about. So I went and back myself up and I was like, I'm going to poop on everything. But yeah, paleo, like they hate on grains and they kind of hate on fruits. And it's like, when you're taking out a whole group of foods, there's a problem. Like that group has value. And like, that's the short answer.
Gotcha. So again, getting back to that, the whole plate, and yes, the well-balanced, let's look, I know we missed a couple others. Okay. Fake sugars get a bad rap. How is sucralose and Aprovac? I might not be saying those right.
The short answer, sorry, in general, I don't, the question would be, you know, why are you doing them? If it's something like diabetes, that's a different thing. If we're talking like because they think cane sugar is no good, then I would say, or honey, I would say the cane sugar and the honey are fine. So this is a loaded question. So I'm trying to cover a couple things. Sometimes people are doing those because they have, like, some of them are like non-nutritive, they have no calories. So people are eating them because they have no calories. They think we're told, hey, that's a better choice because calories are bad. Eat this zero thing. Well, that thing is highly processed and was made of random stuff. And, you know, I'm trying to give a general answer here without going on in my long rant. Like sorbitol is one. Some of these sweeteners could cause you problems like GI problems, maybe some diarrhea, some gas, some bloating. So I just kind of like, just, you want some sugar, like honey, cane sugar, natural sugar in fruits. Dates are a great sweetener. So yeah, you don't need those by any means.
Yeah. Um, so honey's good.
Yeah.
Like natural honey, not like filled with all kinds of artificial things you can't pronounce.
Yeah, and once again, it goes back to where are you at? Like, and what, and there's so many questions. Like, what's the honey for? Are you just eating bowls of honey? Like, that's a whole, like, if you're just eating bowls of honey, like, are you feeling okay? Um, so they're like, if you're making some oatmeal and you want a little bit of sweetness in there, like that's fine. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason, I don't see a reason to buy honey that has additives though, like just honey made thanks to bees.
Yes, love it. Um, Another question, do you have any cleanses that you feel are more like recommended over others?
They're probably going to hate me, but I'm going to say our organs, let the organs do it. Like we don't need the cleanse in general. We don't need the cleanse. That's what the body is doing. And so just start doing some of the stuff we're talking about here. You don't need, there's nothing to do. Just, hey, what's my next step? Is that getting in a serving of vegetables 3 days this week? Cool. Like, you don't need to go like that'll, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And so, and this, just one question within a chat. So I don't have all the background, but so when I hear cleanse, my immediate thought goes to like that, I don't know, like a soup cleanse or juice cleanse or something where you're taking in some liquid to like flush out your system, and it sounds miserable. But then another way, like I currently am doing, I didn't have the energy I wanted. I put on a little weight and I just was kind of feeling like blah. And I started working from home. And so I don't get as much activity. I did buy an under desk treadmill that I love. That's helping a lot. But yeah, I was just like, what can I do? And so I am doing like a 2-week, it's not a cleanse. I'm just trying to do clean eating, like nothing that's not natural, but it is well balanced. I've got proteins, carbs, fruits, vegetables. It's very high vegetable. I do like to open my fasting window at 11 and close it at 7. But if I don't close it at 7, what I do is around 8, I get bored and I start snacking on things I don't need to eat. And then around 9, well, now I had something sweet. Now I want something salty. And I end up consuming a lot of empty calories for no other reason than boredom, not out of hunger, not out of my body telling me anything. It just was kind of a habit. And so I'm only like a little over a week in, but my energy is better. My Fitbit has told me my sleep is better. The first couple of days were not fun because my body was, for lack of better word, like detoxing all these toxins that it was used to living on, the sugars, the artificial sweeteners, just everything that I was pumping my body full of. And so yeah, I kind of felt like I had the flu there for a couple of days. But now I feel way better after I got through that. And now I'm able to re-increase my activity because I kind of took it easy. I'm like, I'm focusing on what I'm fueling my body with. So I'm not going to make it worse by forcing myself to get this workout in. I'm like, let my body adjust. And so, yeah, I'm trying to do the well-balanced, clean eating.
What I throw
Then I
in,
might.
oh, sorry, go on.
But I find myself also using words like I just want to cleanse. I want all the toxins out, but not in like a flush way, but I like let my body kind of get all the toxins out.
Well, I'll say, to be clear, in case when I say organs, they're like, what? Our liver is a detoxifier. It is constantly doing this. So a lot of people have this thing about, I have to do this juice, I have to do this whatever. And then, so the word cleanse gets used in lots of different things. Now, what you're talking about sounds a lot like what we're talking about. And so there's also a thing to go, okay, y'all, what are you doing differently? Why are you feeling better? Are you eating more often? Are you eating plants? Are you getting in like maybe fat, carbohydrates, and proteins? Like it sounds like a lot of what we're doing, what we're talking about. So I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, like that's kind of sounds like what we're talking about. Probably helps people feel better. Now, what you're doing maybe is it doesn't work for everybody.
Mhm.
Because it sounds like it's taken a lot of work and time. I don't know. Um, oh no, it's not. Oh, okay.
Oh, freshandlean.com. I live alone. I am divorced. I do not have children. I don't like to cook, grocery shop, or do dishes. And nobody got time for that. I got a full-time job and a side gig and a social life. So I found Fresh and Lean. It's only, I just finished my second week on it. Third week should be delivered tomorrow. But it's all fresh stuff in California. There's no preservatives, no additives. It's all, but it's packaged in portion size for me and then sent, and it tells me all my, this is how many protein and everything like that. And I have recently, just because of this, restarted using my Fitness Pal because I wanted to see, okay, if, I kind of know a general of how many calories I should be consuming if I'm trying to lose or maintain or gain. So where am I at with these new things? Am I all of a sudden at like a 3,000 calorie diet, or, am I at 800 calories? Like, where am I at? So that's kind of where I was tracking all the new little things I was doing and the little healthy snacks in between. Um, but yeah, there are options out there, ladies and gentlemen. And a couple of weeks ago, I had Stephanie Shaw on, and she's also a nutritionist, but she does hair samples and then gives specific DNA based plans for people. Like, this is what your body needs. And I was telling her after we closed the podcast about it, she's like, yeah, that sounds interesting. What? Go ahead and send me that link. And so I sent her the link, and the next day she's like, I was super skeptical, and like, this girl is just crazy. She's like, I'm actually really impressed, and she's going to try it, I think. And then eventually, maybe if she has a client that's like me, that's like, unless it's delivered to my doorstep fresh, like, and takes 3 minutes to microwave, like, then it's not going to happen. It's going to be delivered to my door in some way, shape, or form. It might as well be healthy, right?
Well, so it's
So
not a meal delivery service that they say you should do for life. They're calling it a cleanse.
no, no, no. That was my term. They're saying it's and they
Oh,
had different um, things, because you could pick keto, you could pick different things. And I'm just kind of a clean eating. Just, I don't want any of the additive, and everything they do is fresh and no additives, no anything that you can't pronounce, no, nothing natural. Um, and then you do get to put in, I got to share. I don't like Brussels sprouts, so I don't have to deal with that. But so there are things out there if that is the barrier. That was a barrier for me. And so you can find a solution.
yeah, a lot of
That's
those meal deliveries, like they have, like they poop on grains or they poop on whatever. So maybe yours doesn't, and because I haven't heard of it. I thought it was like a cleanse thing that you're doing for a certain amount of weeks. I didn't realize it was like just meal delivery thing.
Mhm.
So I've not
Yeah.
heard of it.
They do have a Whole30 option, which is like super strict for 30 days. Originally, I signed up for that and they couldn't deliver it for like 2 or 3 weeks. And as I was thinking about it, I'm like, I'm not going to do that for 30 days. That's stupid. Like, I know myself well enough to know I don't want to be super strict for 30 days and then go off the bandwagon and eat everything I can find and shove my face with for 3 days and completely undo everything I just did. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
why do
how
that?
can we just overall eat more healthy? And then I will still, you know, um, my parents and I are going to San Antonio next week. I think, yeah, next week. I'm not going to eat perfect, and that's going to be okay. But can I be more conscientious on when we do stop and go somewhere for dinner? Um, can I order a grilled chicken breast instead of a triple cheeseburger?
Well, I would say at the end of the day, I go back to again how you feel. Because
Mhm.
maybe emotionally maybe sometimes you want the cheeseburger, and that's okay. And that's not to go against what you're saying. I just want to in addition to throw it out there, like we demonize this stuff. And then that's why you go later, eat 20 cheeseburgers because you told yourself you couldn't have any cheeseburgers. So like maybe eat the cheeseburger sometimes. And maybe other times you're like, yeah, you know what? Right now, I know that cheeseburger actually isn't going to be the choice that does it for me. I want the chicken breast because I know the more you listen to your body, the more you start to realize how certain things make you feel. And then like, yeah, I could go on and on about it, but yeah, you start to do like, okay, yeah, I want to feel a certain way. I want to feel good. So let me eat the way that does that for me.
Yeah, I agree. There's all kinds of really, really great comments in here, everybody. I'm trying to do both, and then we will wrap it up here in just a second. Yes, I will put the link for Fresh and Lean. I use monk fruit as a sweetener.
Yeah,
I don't know what monk fruit is.
Ideally, yeah, it's not depends where you're at. If that's working for you now, do it. Like that's the short answer.
Oh, and then she says, she'd be way worse off if she used table sugar. It's only in the table sugar is only in my house for coffee and for others. So it's more for the other people in her household, not hers, for the table sugar. And then she likes the monk fruit. My mom, road trip next week. Diet wise. Mom, you and I, we can split meals like we do sometimes. Okay, how many calories should a 5'6" 220-pound woman consume to lose weight? Do you have kind of a general guideline or a resource, a place that, I don't know, get information?
Because that's she's not gonna like my answer. But so again, so I was struggling my answer because she's probably gonna say I'm a jerk, but calorie counting it's usually wrong. Well, here, first of all, food labels aren't 100% accurate. So when we are set on this designated, I'm doing this many calories, guess what? Honestly, you're not, because the label, they can be just like they can have a certain amount of like bugs or whatever in our food. Like, so it's the truth. There can be like a certain amount of like percentage of whatever. The labels can be wrong. Nothing is perfect, like in like, sorry, the bug thing, but like that's the truth. So it's not even accurate. And a lot of times you get counts from certain things. It's low. It is not accurate. It is giving me a general thing. So I'm sorry. I've calorie counted. It didn't work. I did it for years. I've done it multiple times. It doesn't work. It is leaving out so many important things. It's just not. So I'm sorry if you hate me. I don't have the comment in front of me. And yeah, for my I just don't encourage it, is what I would say. And what you're looking at is probably telling you too few. Because we think that eating less is going to make us skinny and that's our solution. And it's usually not the solution.
Gotcha. So to paraphrase perhaps, and correct me if I'm misstating. So focus on, when you think of health, think of your overall, how you feel. Like, do you wake up and do you have the energy you need to live the life that you want? And fuel your body with things that help you do that. And when you do that, consider a well-rounded amount. And if you really want to have something, like, go for it. Like, just maybe don't want a whole cake every day or a whole triple cheeseburger every day, right? But if you're really craving that, allow yourself it and allow yourself that grace, and then move forward instead of perseverating on, I can't have this, I can't have this, I can't have this. Okay, now I'm having 7. Now all I'm eating is this for a week. Yeah.
In general, yeah, that's kind of the like the blanket, the kind of, yeah, the overall wrap up. And with it too, it's like stuff like stress, sleep, relationships, all this other stuff plays in too. It impacts how you eat and impacts how you feel, and they all go hand in hand. Exercise, but yeah, like you've just kind of wrapped up the overall concept here.
Awesome. So in general, if you, not because of what society tells you, but you just know, like, my body is not functioning the way it is, and I am carrying more weight than I I hate the word should, but then I would choose to, I'm at an unhealthy weight for myself and it's taxing my energy, maybe my joints, like it's causing other things. And so I want to address those things. It's not about a number on a scale, a size of pants, matching the latest beautiful actress, whoever that is, on a cover of whatever do they still make magazines? I don't know. The newest person on Instagram. And so, but if you have targeted weight loss as a goal because you're improving your overall health.
Well, there's the thing you just said. If you are improving your overall health, the weight part doesn't, like, it'll go with it. Like, stop. We are so set on, I have to lose weight. I have to lose weight. I have to lose weight. And so we'll do anything to get it. And we'll ignore what's nutrient dense. We'll ignore how we feel because we think that's the answer. And it doesn't work, but we keep doing it. So I say pretty much do the opposite of that. Stop thinking about it and start addressing how you feel. How is your sleep? How is your stress? Are you moving your body? Are you eating regularly? These things are they will change your life. The I must lose weight isn't going to change your life. And these things will impact your lab values. They will impact your body size, probably. They will, like, to put you at a place where your body is appropriate, maybe not the place you think it should be or the number, but whatever. So
yeah. So a lot of times we want that magic pill. We want that quick fix. And so I think that's why, and I say we because I am part of this, seek out that fad diet that, oh, this says it's going to work and this says this and this actor or actress says this, or my best friend tried this and it worked for them. But really, if we focus on how am I the best me? How do I want to show up? How do I want to fuel myself? And you do look at it holistically. I love that you included sleep. I know you've mentioned hydration. Movement is huge. And so it is what we put in our body, but food wise, but you're saying it's not all that. So don't lose focus of your life and hate your life and be miserable eating things you don't like and not eating things that you do. Like, there's a balance.
The extremes, like, nope, like, they don't work. And that's what's sad too, is I work with people who have been doing this stuff for decades. And I'm like, girl, has it worked yet? Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's because I'm so upset for everyone because I've been there. And now I realize the baloney that we've all been fed. And so I'm like, it's been 20 years. Like, it's not working. The next one isn't going to do it. They're junk. And so I hate to see people's lives just get wasted on this obsession and this focus. Like, there's so much more to the world, than what you look like. And, like, it goes back to how do you feel? Do you feel terrible? Like,
That's not fun. Yeah. No one wants to wake up and feel terrible. And there are some times we, get some type of illness or something and it's out of our control. But if eating at McDonald's drive-through every day versus eating things without preservatives, I mean, how are you going to feel? Yeah. What's going to actually fuel you? Yeah. So really, I mean, nothing is anything that we don't know. Like, we know these things, but it takes consistency and a little bit of discipline. And it's not the quick fix. It's the long term. It's the marathon.
Well, there is no quick fix because the things that sell themselves as quick fixes aren't actually a fix. They're like this terrible Band-Aid you're putting on, like, a bleeding wound. Sorry, that's a graphic maybe, but like, or you put a little, I don't know, a little something on a broken pipe. It's going to break. It's not a fix. We're told it is, but it doesn't. So yeah, this is making actual behavior and lifestyle changes that work long term. And as life changes, you will have to adjust those. So yeah, learning tips and tactics and strategies. And like, I'm all about a tool belt, having different tools you pull out at the different moment that's what I talk with people about. Like, hey, maybe this works right now and B and C work later. Every day is different. And, 10 years from now, life will be different. So you have to have actual things that work long term. And yeah, life is a long haul. So you got to do the stuff that we're trying to do it like that works long term, but you can also adjust as you go.
Yes. And feel free, hold on one second, let me pop over here.
Okay.
Feel free to take the daily tip from Chantel. Take a shot glass of
Well, snack.
of almonds. It had almonds in it. It did not have liquid. But yes, so there are things, show up to things like this, connect with Paige. And so where can they connect with you, Paige, to get more tips for their tools for their tool belt?
Yeah. They could go to my website, startfuelingbetter.com. Yeah, I've got information on there. I have a podcast. It's on the website. Yeah, they can go there for sure.
Love it. And so we did just talk about kind of that consistency, that daily, a little bit of discipline without using it in like a scary way. But so I like to ask all my guests if they have any daily non-negotiables, because I do truly believe it's those little tiny consistent things. It's great the day you pass the finish line of the marathon, but you didn't get there without the little daily consistency. So do you have any daily non-negotiables?
Yeah, so I'll throw out when I say these, I guess these aren't, I mean, these are most days, like, because no day is this, like I said, I'm really about like going with the flow. So, but in general, like big things that make a big difference: eating breakfast and drinking water, like, and eating breakfast ideally within like an hour of waking.
Oh, okay.
That's how I would say.
So I'm not quite there because I'm doing my fasting, and that feels good for my body. And I tried different things, but yes, water is probably like my 10th one of these today, and that's a low day. I've also really gotten into tea lately, so that's a whole nother thing. So, okay, so you got the daily non-negotiables. We have where we can connect with you. In the chat says water is my non-negotiable. I love water. That's awesome. What a healthy thing to have. So I'm so excited for you to share with the audience. You have an upcoming live event that you are graciously allowing a free ticket to anybody who has shown up and is listening, either live, replay, or on the podcast. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, it's in December, and there's some flexibility in it right now, but it'll probably be somewhat about holidays and family stuff, because this is where a lot of people struggle. So many people struggle with holidays and food and family. And so there'll be some discussion around that. I think that's
nice. How perfect and timely. And then you're also helping people kind of set themselves up, kind of get that runway going for, I'm not a fan of New Year's resolutions, but if that's where someone wants to go, it gives them a nice runway to do it in a healthy way.
That's fair. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I just shared that in the chat as well. So everyone go sign up for that live series with Paige. Anything else that you want to add as we wrap up here, Paige?
No, I guess I'll say I'm sorry if anybody's watching who thinks I poo-poo everything, but I do it out of caring. And because I said I have been there and I see it every day, and I know so many women struggle with this. And so it's like sometimes I just get a little like tough love, I guess. And it's not to be too, it's just, I hate. I don't like the word. My mom always said, I hate the word hate, but I hate seeing people waste their time, money, and like mental health on stuff that just doesn't help them. And so I get a little into it. So I hope that it comes through with the right intention. Yeah, I'm not trying to poop anything. I really just want to see people get actual results and not keep like just feeling awful about themselves.
Absolutely. And a lot of what you shared was, don't jump on the fad diet bandwagon, go back to basics, allow yourself grace, and include all the food groups, and yeah, just find that balance that feels good and natural for you. Listen to your body and feel good about the choices that you're making. Don't waste your life beating yourself up of all the things. We are so mean to ourselves and we need to stop.
And life is too short. Like decades of feeling terrible about yourself, like don't like, and I know so many people have done it. That's why I'm like, hey, the sooner you can stop, the better.
100%. So we've got lots of thank yous and heart emojis going. This was fantastic, Paige. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your knowledge and content with us. And thank you everyone for joining either live or on the replay. Thank you so much, those of you who joined us live and were so very active in the chat. I hope that you feel that showing up live was really a benefit because you were able to get, questions answered that came up to your mind that maybe we wouldn't have just naturally gotten to. So thank you for all of that. And I just have an ask. If you got value out of this episode, please share it with someone that you think would benefit from it. And also leaving a podcast review is very much appreciated. And you can quickly and easily leave a review from any device by going to ratethispodcast.com/Khalil. That's CALYL for Create a Life You Love. That will be all linked everywhere. And if you find yourself on a transformation journey, please be sure to check out our free transformation action plan. All you do is answer a few simple questions, and then you will receive detailed personalized results with your top 3 things that you can implement to build momentum on your journey today. Next week, I'm excited. We'll be chatting with Rosie. I was recently a guest on her podcast, and now she's coming on to mine. She is a woman's life and transformation coach, an author, an international multi-award entrepreneur, podcast host, and speaker. She's going to be sharing key strategies so that you can claim your voice and value, catapult your confidence, create an empowered you, and call your kind love. She also is a survivor of domestic violence, and she has an amazing story. And so her whole mission is to help people find kind love in themselves, to others, and from others. She's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely come check that out. We'll be here in the Create a Life You Love community at 7 p.m. Central Time, same place, or on your favorite podcasting platform. And thank you everyone so much. Enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening to the Create a Life You Love podcast. I would love to hear from you about your biggest takeaways. Share them with me on Facebook or Instagram at Create a Life You Love Coaching. If you love this podcast, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. That's it for now. Enjoy the journey.